Hello lovely people, my name is Nico. I'm the photographer for People Places Asia. We specialize in travel, landscape, and food photography, and we are excited to do this video today about lighting. Do stick around because at the end of this video we have a special giveaway sponsored by People Places Asia. You can kindly visit our website at www.peopleplacesasia.com to see some of our prints and order one if you'd like. The topic for this video is lighting techniques for food and product photography, and we're going to discuss three specific types of lighting. The first is natural light. Natural light is any ambient light or any type of window light, usually also can be sunlight that is naturally present and coming from the sun. The second is strobe or flash lighting. This is going to be something that is of this size, usually a strobe, or can be an off-camera flash. And the whole point of this type of light is to give a lot more power than natural light. The third type of lighting is video light, or what we call continuous light, and this is the type of light that I'm using right now to light myself. This type of light is great for obviously video, and it gives the ability for you to see exactly what your final image or video will look like present with the naked eye. We will look at some pros and cons to each of these three lighting styles or techniques, and I'm going to give you a few tips for each different type of lighting. Now, before we discuss those things, I want to share with you probably one of the biggest secrets of photography. Here's the secret. If you have really good lighting, you're going to produce a really good image, even if your camera is not that good. Even if you're using a phone, if you have really good light, your overall image is going to be great. I wish somebody had told me that, or I wish somebody had taught me that if I had just invested in a really good quality light first and just used my phone until I had the opportunity to get a camera, I would have still been producing a much better final image than if I was to use a really expensive camera and still no light or not a good type of light. Now, remember, photography really is actually light painting. The idea really is that the sensor in your camera body or even in your phone is like a canvas, and the lens and the light that you have available is like the colors of paint. So the paint brush, or the way that you actually make the painting, really comes down to knowledge and, most importantly, creativity. So remember, with good paint or good light, and then of course good creativity or knowledge, which is that paint brush, you can put a really good final image on your canvas, the sensor. The first type of light that we're going to discuss is natural light. Now, the pros to natural light are that you do not need to bring any equipment with you. That's a huge benefit when you are trying to be light with your gear or light with your total equipment when you are traveling places. Another benefit of natural light is you have a very unique variety of different types of lighting. This is going to depend, of course, on what time of the day it is and how you are using the natural light. If you're using a window, or if you are using direct sunlight, or if you're using an overcast or a cloudy day, these will all have a benefit, of course, to the natural light in your photo. Now, there are a lot of cons to natural light. Of course, the easiest one to point out would be the clouds. When the clouds come in, or when the color temperature, whether it's sunrise or sunset, whether the hue of the light is more blue or orange, or really when just rain comes, it can really destroy or ruin your final result. A perfect example of this would be if you're doing product photography or doing a set where you want everything to look exactly the same light, same white balance, and so forth. With natural light, you really are going to have a hard time achieving this, even if you're a really good editor. And even if you're shooting in RAW, it's going to be very challenging to nail perfectly each photo of a set of products. And so this is a big con, is the white balance or the temperature when the clouds change. All right, so now here are a few tips for natural light. First off, if it is really sunny and the light is too harsh, you can usually use one of these reflectors. Now, the reflectors have an outer cover that is usually gold and white on one side and black and silver on the other. You want to remove that and use the inner material here, which is this somewhat transparent mesh-like material, and that is specifically for the purpose of softening light. So you use the reflector to bounce light, usually sunlight or even continuous light, but the inner part of the reflector is to soften harsh light from the sun. Another tip to natural light is that you want to control this natural light that you are using no matter what location you are in. What does that mean? So if you have a room with 3 windows, ideally you're going to want to cover 2 of those 3 windows so you have just 1 window as your main light source. If you're going to use 2 windows, you want to make sure that you still have as much control of those 2 windows as possible. If you are shooting outside, you may want to again use the reflector but turn it to the black side and use what we call negative fill, or black side of the reflector, and use that to actually cancel light that might be hitting your subject. One example of this would be the photo that I shot here for Kanto Bogchi. So because their restaurant is extremely beautiful, actually, with its natural light, it does give a very pleasing ambience to the eye. However, for taking photos, I needed to control the amount of that natural light that was hitting these photos. And in order to do that, what I did was I used a mix of negative fill, black reflectors with white reflectors, and then I even actually used a little bit of a continuous light to balance out the overall ambient or natural lighting look for the photo. The next type of lighting is strobe or flash lighting. Now, the pros to a strobe or a flash type of light is that you right off the bat have a lot more power and a lot more control of how much power is coming out of that particular light. Another thing you don't have to worry about is light bleed. So that's also a pro, because again, the idea of photography is really light painting. With a strobe or a flash, the camera settings that you have on your camera, if you were to take the photo without the flash firing, would usually be almost black. And so when you take the photo with that flash firing, when that light briefly hits your subject or food, it's just the light from that strobe or flash, so you have a lot more control, and you have no other ambient or artificial ceiling or light bulb type of lights bleeding in to your final image or result. Another pro to flash or strobe lighting is that you can have a control over your aperture, or what we consider the depth of field, or how shallow or deep your depth of field is. What this means is that you can shoot at f8 or f11, f16, f22 and have everything in frame, in focus, because your strobe light is more powerful than any other type of lighting source. Now, the cons for flash or strobe lighting is that you really do need to know the math or the numbers behind ISO, shutter speed, aperture, and the f-stops of your strobe or flash. Knowing the math and knowing these numbers and how they correlate with each other is going to ultimately determine your end result. And so, although there are some flashes with TTL and there are some strobes that give an auto setting, usually you still need to know all of these numbers and how they correlate with one another to create your final image. Here are a few tips for flash or strobe photography lighting. One, make sure that your in-camera white balance is the exact same setting as the white balance of your strobe or flash. Even a few hundred Kelvin off can result in an odd color shift or hue. And even if you're shooting in RAW, it's always better if you have everything set right and done in camera, so you have a minimal post-processing effort. Another tip is to make sure you understand softboxes and how any type of diffusion works with your strobe or flash. Again, a big tip and a big pro to using flash or strobe lighting is the consistency. Always use a flash or strobe when you are trying to have a consistent look for a lot of different subjects or different types of food. For example, here you can see the work that we did for the restaurant here in Baguio City, Le Chef. We needed to have a consistent look for almost 55 or 60 some dishes, and we can't use natural light for that. We cannot use continuous light either because of the light bleed, so we utilized a flash and strobe system, which allowed us to have all the settings consistent for a multi-day shoot, and that allowed us to deliver to the client something that is consistent over all of their menu items. This is one of the biggest pros again, and one of the biggest benefits to a flash or strobe type of light. The third type and final type of lighting that we're going to discuss in this video is what we call continuous light or video light. Again, this is the light that I'm using right now. Now, there are a lot of pros to this style or type of lighting. First off, it is a hybrid of sorts, or it's universal. You can use it for photography if it's strong enough or bright enough, and then you can absolutely use it for video because it's constant. Now, in a poll that we did for the purpose of making this video, the #1 question asked was how to have good lighting, or how to use my phone to take a good photo, and do I need good lighting for that? So here's a kind of secret of sorts. Continuous light, like the one that we're using right now, is really good for phone photography. You're not going to be able to get a great photo with natural light unless you have that extremely good control of the natural light and ambient and light bleed. Lighting usually ruins a lot of phone photography photos or makes the image flat. So again, big pro for this continuous type of light is that you can use it with your phone and you can see exactly what the final result will be in camera or even on your phone screen. So again, another pro is you can see the exact final result right there with your naked eye or right through the screen of your phone. A few cons for continuous or video light is that you are going to have usually an issue of light bleed. Now, the best way to avoid this light bleed is to go into a completely dark room with no other lights turned on, and in that dark room you can then use this continuous light for the most accurate light setting. Another con is that you can't really freeze motion. Now, you can use a really high ISO or a really high shutter speed with a low aperture, but then you are going to run into a compromise with the overall quality of your image. So usually for freezing motion, a continuous light is not going to be the best option for you. And finally, here are a few quick tips for using a continuous light. First off, again, go into a dark room. It's going to be the easiest way to have complete 100% control over the light that is hitting your subject, your food, or your product. A second tip for utilizing continuous light or video light with food photography or product photography is to grab yourself a tripod. Personally, for People Places Asia, we recommend Benro. They are great tripods. This one here is great for beginners. It's the Slim series. It's also the carbon fiber series, which is only about 1,000 peso difference from the aluminum version. We use this a lot because it's not fun to lug around a really big and heavy tripod, and usually you only need that for doing video like I'm using right now. You want to utilize this tripod so that way you can put your aperture maybe at a setting of f5.6 or f8, which gives you more depth of field in your photo. And because of this continuous light not being as strong or as bright as a flash, you need to lower your shutter speed. So lowering your shutter speed means you can no longer handhold your camera, which is why, again, you need to put it on a tripod. So that's a big tip. Get a tripod when using a continuous light. A tip for all of you out there who are using phones for your food or product photography: use a continuous light. This will be your best friend, and it's really going to give you a whole nother level or a whole new professional look to your photos that you may have not been able to achieve before. One additional bonus tip for using a continuous light or a video light is to utilize natural ambient light with the continuous light. A perfect example of this would be the photos that we took for Hatch Coffee. We love the ambience and the vibe and the mood and the setting that you see when you go into Hatch Coffee, and so in order to achieve the look that we were happy with and we wanted to portray for Hatch Coffee, we actually utilized a continuous light with the ambient light that was there on location. So yes, we did have to go and do a little bit more post-processing. Yes, we had to Photoshop out a little bit of reflection here and there, but the overall image that we were looking for was accomplished best when we used a continuous light with a mix of ambient light. So yes, you can break the rules sometimes, and finally remember this: there really is no such thing as a bad lighting, in the sense that every situation, every location that you're in, there is always going to be a good light in that location. It's just a matter of how to utilize or how to discover or how to set up your location or setting with that existing light. You're going to want to use either a continuous light or a strobe or a flashlight, so that way you can have the control and be able to control your final image or final result. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you'd like to leave a comment and give any other suggestions or ideas or tips for any of these 3 styles of lighting, please feel free to share or comment below. Now for the giveaway, this is the exciting part. We are going to be giving away an entire lighting kit to one of you special people, and so the first item will be a Godox SL60W. This is an LED light, good for phone photography, video, or even camera photography. So we'll be giving that Godox away, and of course you'll need a softbox. We'll be giving away 2 softboxes with this kit. The first is a strip softbox like this one. It's a 120 centimeter, I think, by 30 centimeter softbox. And then of course you really need an Octabox or a bigger softbox. So this is a 47-inch Octabox softbox by Godox. So here's the mechanics. First, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Second, follow us on our Instagram page. And third, comment on this photo on Instagram. It's very simple. Tag 3 friends, and you can comment as many times as you want. The more comments, the more entries. If you comment here on YouTube, those are additional bonus entries as well, and we'll give everybody 2 weeks, and then we will pick one of you guys to receive this lighting kit. So thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Ciao.